This finance meeting on Tuesday, September the 8th, here in council chambers. Mr. Whittington, Mr. Stitt, Mr. Thornberry, and myself. Mr. Mumper called, he was ill. So kind of wanted to go over a few things. I know we've been talking about the public works trucks for a while, and we were waiting on the second proposal on the lease arrangement, and so but the two different leases we have in the description of the trucks, what they were looking at were the one of the F-350s 4x4, and then also the quote was for two of the F-450s, and they would be on the state bid, and so we wouldn't have to go out and quote them again because they're already qualified under the state bid proposal. So you're looking at both of those, then we can either suggest or move forward on either all three or one of each of the 350 and the 450. We did get two different quotes on the lease package. One company gave us a 36, 48 and a 60-month rates, and then it had another company come through with a quote for a 5-year, 60-month rates as well for the units. And the 5-year on the from the one company, their 5-year rates and total payments would be less than the 48-month plan from the other firm. So just looking for some guidance whether we want to stretch it to 5 years and still pay less for the vehicles overall, so it would be a little less of a burden on the city, or the only thing is, we had talked, we would have to find out from the company if we could make the payments on a quarterly. Is that what you prefer, Jim? Quarterly payment?
Probably semi-annually is usually the best, 2 payments.
So we would have to confirm from them that they would allow us to do those payments versus writing a check every month. And then I would think that they would work with us on that. So,
Are all these leases or some of them purchases?
these are, it's a lease purchase. So after 5 years, we would own them.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
They're usually calculated so that the balloon payment at the end is a $1 payment to keep the vehicle. That's the way the lease is calculated.
So, but they're both are leases, yes.
Are we talking about 2 for water and 1 for streets, or is it the other way around?
Not really positive on whether the 450s were, although I'd have to verify that, Jim.
Interest rate is not an issue here, but one of them listed. Is that an insurance rate?
That's the interest rate for this, yeah. The other one doesn't list an interest rate, they just list the monthly payment, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I would throw that to the auditor and say whichever method he's most comfortable with.
I think the the Baystone Government Finance Accord Financial Group, which is the most recent one. It's a state bank, KS State Bank at the top. Kansas State Bank.
Are these comparable leases, like Bancorp is like $200 a month higher?
Right,
They're shorter term.
although their 60-month down at the bottom of Bancorp, their
Okay.
60-month was $824 per month on their 60-month, if you read that last line down there.
Yeah.
I don't know, whatever in the end costs us the less seems to make sense. I don't sense any great advantage or disadvantage of 4 versus 5 years. Is there?
No, I mean, the ones we have down there now are quite a bit older.
Hold up.
So,
Year, it's pre-millennium.
so, I mean,
I think the Kansas State Bank is probably going to be the way to go. We
I'm
can,
not reading Kansas State Bank anywhere.
KS State Bank at the top. I'm
Okay,
assuming
Accord
KS.
Financial Group and the Bank Corp.
Oh, the Accord Financial Group. Sorry, the cover letter to it, the Accord Financial Group is part of Baystone Government Financing, which is Kansas State Bank.
Okay. So we all know what we're referring to. One more thing.
I would say Accord would be the way to go.
Now, are these vehicles equipped with snowplows or?
they have a snow plow package on them,
On them?
both units. Both.
I think we use our plows, right?
Yeah.
The existing plow just gets switched over, but
Yeah.
it's rigged to be able to take it.
And one of them has a dump feature and the other one doesn't.
These don't have it. These aren't dump trucks.
This is 9-foot gallon, 200 yard dump body. What does that mean?
I don't believe that's.
That would be for the street department.
That would,
Water wouldn't have
they wouldn't need that.
to.
So that was on the 450s.
Okay.
So that would lead me to believe there would be 2 for streets and 1 for water, probably.
Well, let me be clear then. In the end, we're buying 3 trucks or 2 trucks?
The request was for 3, 2 of the F-450s and 1 of the F-350.
Okay.
But if we say, well, we only want to do 1 of each right now, we can do that too, and they'll get started. It's up, whatever you feel comfortable with.
What do we have the funds for?
Yeah, I don't know what to base it on. I'll have to defer to the auditor again.
We're really talking about $7,700, $7,800 a year for each truck, coming out of specific funds, street versus water. Street fund's always tight, which is why I want to talk about moving somebody out of street back to parks. And it depends on what those revenues of those funds are. I'd say water could probably afford 2. Streets could afford 1, but there might be times when it's tight. Are we going to get to the end of next year and have to transfer some money into the street funds from the general fund like we have in previous years? That's possible. But again, we're talking $7,800.
I don't know, I mean, my feeling is, trying to think back to when we last had something in front of us for streets and so on.
I mean, they're, what
Vehicle-wise.
we're running on down there now with,
What do we do with existing buildings? Are they, existing vehicles, are they trade-ins?
no, they would still be used.
Still
in
used?
some capacity down there.
Until they don't run anymore.
Yeah. I mean, we've kept them alive for all last winter, and, well, obviously, now it's September, but.
Yeah, but we were short on trucks last winter
Right.
on several
Yeah.
occasions.
So,
So,
So I personally am comfortable with getting 3 at this point.
so we can look on moving forward on that, but we'll just have to confirm that we can make payments in a preferably semi-annual basis.
And that has more to do with every time a check, a hard check is issued from the city, there's a fixed cost to it. There's a cost that the bank charges us, plus the cost of creating 4 copies of a check to meet with the requirements for the state and maintaining those copies. So it costs a few dollars every time we make a check. And every time we can do something electronically or decrease the amount of payments that are done over a year by turning this into a semi-annual payment, it decreased the cost to the city substantially.
So we want to confirm, tighten up the details on these, and then if everything can be structured that way, then at our next regular council meeting, we can have the official, I guess, authorization from finance suggesting that we move forward and have the paperwork started, because we have to fill out paperwork for all these, as well. So, and that way-
I think we're probably okay if you want to go ahead and
so,
start that process now.
yeah.
Dealing with the bank and how many payments to make, that can kind of happen along the way.
All right.
And even if they stay monthly, maybe we can get them onto our electronic bank transfer, because it'll be a 5-year. That's 60 payments.
It's 2015, for goodness sake.
So, all right, we can move forward with that then. And though I don't have any official forms to fill out for everybody to sign tonight. So
who's working on this? Who's working on this project? Is it Joe?
That's where well, then we got Jim's got the one lease bid from down in Florida. What was it, Florida? Is that what
Florida. They've just done financing on other vehicles.
So,
All right.
all right. So we can move on to appropriations and toss out a couple things there, James.
I've made a list of purchase order requests with insufficient appropriations. That's 1 page, which is good. The bulk of what this is water department refunds for overpayment. And so that is that Fund 50. The Public Lands and Buildings, Richards Electric, and Miller Brothers Paint. That's for soccer field paint and for damage to light poles. And then postage at the bottom. The water department has the postage machine. People go down and use it for mailing, although departments tend not to create purchase orders for that until the bill comes. So their purchase orders may be used for other things, their appropriations. So typically this time of the year, we start getting these bills for postage and there's no appropriations left for it. The major keys for that is the police department. They're $1,300 over. I did make out a list here, if it interests you at all, of the open POs for the police department now that are still outstanding. Most of them deal with their new hires that we haven't gotten bills on. The tax department, they always run up a lot of postage, but they do it to bring in revenue. So there's $2,200 there. And the other one is the health department, and that's short by $317. On the sample exhibit A, The other ones, the blanket purchase order for the health department vehicle parts, unless they've got a specific repair, I wouldn't be doing blankets this time of year. Police department, or fire department, the International Firefighters membership dues, $209. They've got thousands of dollars tied up in a blanket purchase order for, quote, miscellaneous building repairs. My suggestion through my office was for them to decrease that PO by $200 and pay this. You know, a blanket purchase order is one that can be generated by a department head that just says, if I need it for anything, I want to tie this money up and use it for multiple things. If you create a blanket like that and tie the money up and then other bills are coming in that don't fit underneath that blanket purchase order, you need to decrease that to pay your bills. Total on the water fund refunds is $1,066.48. I made two lines there basically for the trucks. The keys are wrong. They should be $7,700. And we can really wait to put those in until we know when this is going to happen, because the first payment is due the month, it's in a month in arrears, so it's the month after we take possession of the trucks. So whenever it closes, we've got a month to make the first payment. So I would just leave those off. And then I didn't know if you wanted to put this on this agenda or 2 weeks from now. I do have a copy of the official ordinance. Should it be your desire to put it on tonight? The other area that I have on here is what we talked about on the last meeting, the Parks and Playgrounds personnel, moving one person from streets, one person from water into this key, so that we have those Parks and Playgrounds people back in the general fund. They've been out since 12, I think. Took them out 2012, 2011 or 12, something like that. That would allow some room to take some of our temporary employees and move them to full-time. There's 3 guys that have been part-time. That decision for that would be up to the safety service director. If we did this, it would allow him to have basically the appropriations to be able to do that.
It'd be ready to go once the personnel decisions are made. Then.
Correct. We could approve the financing, and it would be up to the safety service director to approve the hiring.
So do we have enough room to move these employees right now?
We will if we move this money.
Again, where's this money coming from?
The appropriations, there's additional money left in the general fund under the certificate.
Okay.
Not much, but there's there. We raised the certificate last month. It's just around $20 million for the general fund. And it went up and then it went down, and now it's gone back up. And at first, it was higher because we had the $1.7 million bond, or $1.2 million bond as revenue coming into the general fund to then be transferred to the bond fund. So the original certificate was $1.2 million higher. We had to lower it because the state auditor came in and said, you can't wash it through the general fund like that, even though that's what we've done for the past several years, that it has to come into the bond fund because of the way the bond was structured. So then we decreased the certificate by the $1.2 million, but then our revenue was up about just under $700,000, so it's come back up $700,000 to just under $20 million. But that certificate changes 5 or 6 times every year. It'll change again. We're probably going to change it. We probably hold off and change it at the end of December, unless there's a major change in our revenue, the way it's coming in.
I believe we're short on public works people, and it's probably a good time to move this money now. And these are younger people, I believe. Is that right? So
I included a small spreadsheet to each one of you that shows the projected cost of a new hire for public works. It looks like this. And you'll see the bottom line here where it says 5 months, August through December. That's obviously shortened now because we're talking, really, it'll be October through December, so you can take 2/5 of that off, which is where I got that $45,000 as opposed to $53,000.
And that's 2 people? Or all
That's per
3?
person. Oh,
Or per person?
right, so 45,000 would cover 2 people for the rest of the year. And next year, the total cost would be about 130,000
For,
for 2 people, 125 to
I thought we
130.
were talking about 3 people.
This is just for the parks for the general fund.
Okay,
There would be another person added to water.
okay.
How they actually, who they move, who they credit to which area, that'll be up to the safety service director. How they're assigned. There'd be 1 new person in water and 2 people in parks, although you may see them move people from streets or parks to, or streets or water to parks. That's a management issue.
Yep, so I mean, we can make the change, but as far as the actual change in personnel, wouldn't change until all the other shuffling probably is squared away, and they would still be working down there as part-time folks as they are now. They're not going away, but it's a matter of where to work them in and when, as far as into the full-time role, so.
Right now, this appropriation allows the safety service director to move 2 people to the general fund under parks, and then gives them the option of hiring 2 people on existing appropriations to street and water, or 2 people to water, and then they can add a 3rd person to water, and we'll just adjust that personnel key as we get closer to the end of the year and see what that projection is going to be.
It's good to me.
So we can do that. Looking around though, whether we want to do it tonight, we can, but we'd only be able to have 1 reading. Because if Andrew isn't going to be here and John is sick also, so I doubt seriously he will be here. So we'd only have 5, we could only have the first reading this evening. I mean, if,
Or we can wait and do all 3
and
readings.
then do all 3 the next time. And that way we'd have, hopefully, the truck data to plug in and do it all one time instead of having 2 separate appropriations.
Okay.
But at this point, there's enough information to take to the safety service director on the hiring, knowing that finance is going to recommend that we do this in 2 weeks, that he could be looking at how to utilize those people.
Good deal.
Anything else? Note?
No, I didn't have anything else at this point. Do you have anything, Jim?
We're just looking at what our revenues and expenses are as we get to the end of the year. I mean, it still looks like we're going to be $650,000 short, which compounds on top of, last year we were higher than that. There are certain expenses that tend to build up and keep building over time, and when we're trying to stay as close as we can with police and fire pension, we're about 60 days behind with them. As long as we're within 90 and we're making regular payments, they're happy. We're paying them more every month than what the bill is. As we get to the end of the year, then that'll drop off. And so when I say we're, 680,000 short, 650 to 680, that means at the end of the year we're going to owe that much, and this may payments to C9 Trust, Police and Fire Pension. Which those are the 2 that we tend to run behind on.
And the only other thing, at the next finance meeting, I think the fire and police chief, they had wanted to discuss the 911 department and some changes that are coming. I don't have details, but they would need about 20 minutes to explain that. I don't know whether if you've heard anything about it or not, but
Finance committee?
yeah. And so I said, well, I know when I called this meeting, I thought they would be able to be here today, potentially, as an afterthought. But then the police chief, he's out with some of the other members over there are out for 3 days, so I don't have really any details until, but they want to come and address finance for about 20 minutes on whatever the changes for 911.
I believe it has to do with radio system upgrades, saying that, the entire county has to
Yeah.
be on the same type of radio.
We've heard about that in the past.
Yeah.
So, just FYI, for the next meeting, they'll be coming here, so.
Very good.
All right. Anybody else have anything for,
Nothing here?
okay. Good deal. This meeting of finance from September the 8th is officially closed. Thank you.